thanks everybody for having us here in this wonderful environment of the Engadin Art Talks in Surz, and for the opportunity to talk about one of the early generative projects realized on the blockchain, which even happens to be a Swiss project done by two Swiss artists in early 2019, Johannes Gees, who is here with us today, and Kelian Maissen, who lives in LA and couldn't make it to the Engadin. You might think when I said it's a very early project, and then I said it happened in 2019, that sounds a bit strange, but 3 years in a space like the blockchain environment, that's like ages. So many things happened within these 3 years. And you can truly say that Kelian and Johannes created something that's close to a pioneer work when they did Kleee 0.02 in 2019. And I will now discuss Kleee a bit, or talk about Kleee with Johannes a bit more in detail. And yes, Johannes, I mean, you've been active with your artistic practice between the physical and the digital since 1999. So for almost like more than 23 years. So what made you dive into that field of blockchain and then in the end kind of create Kleee?
Yes, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here with us. I started working as an artist like 25 years ago, and it started with the internet. For me, the internet was like a white canvas, like a wide open space, and I really enjoyed the possibility to use this new tool. But at the same time, I was always a little bit frustrated with just working on a computer screen. So I always thought about how can I combine these new tools, and this is how I looked at the internet at this time. How can I use this tool and at the same time make some physical work? And this has stayed with me since almost 25 years now. And in 2015, I started getting interested in what was then called like the blockchain technology, blockchain culture. And I was extremely fascinated because it was for me like, not because it was like money, but because it was like decentralized. It was just something that I had known before and I had never thought about. And then a little later on, around 2018, I met again Kelian Maissen, who is from very different age from me. He's maybe like 28, 29. And he worked for me for a couple of months as my assistant. And then we found out that we have like the same interests. And at this time, what we called non-fungible tokens became sort of an issue. And then we just started to collaborate and to exchange ideas. And I was from
Can you maybe just quickly for the audience, maybe shed some light on that word NFT, non-fungible token?
Yes. NFT is like short for non-fungible token, and basically it is a technology that allows to create digital uniqueness, because usually a digital file, whether it's like a PowerPoint or Photoshop or so, is like you can copy it endlessly. A song you can copy it, but an NFT you cannot copy it. Only one person can own it, and I saw a very interesting comparison that came at that time to my mind. That was like when you go back in art history to people like Sol LeWitt, who would work with certificates. So basically, you would have a certificate that would describe a work, and then you would have the execution, which can be a drawing or it can be like a cube. And I saw that similarity between the certificates and the NFTs. And so this was like one inspiration that I really liked. The other thing was that generative art that is generated from a computer program, from an algorithm, was also in our imagination like a perfect match with NFTs. And then, as you can't see it now. And the name of this project that we came up with was Kleee 02, because we were also inspired by Paul Kleee. We did this early project with the laser in mind. I have been working with lasers a lot, and there is this famous quote by Paul Kleee about a line is a dot that goes for a walk. And that is exactly what a laser does. It is like it moves a dot very quickly, so it becomes like a line. So those were the three inspirations, like generative art, certificates becoming like NFTs, and of course the laser. Yeah.
And how did the blockchain somehow help you in developing this project? I mean, there are certain, let's say, characteristics that the blockchain entails that might have enabled you to realize that project.
Yeah, I mean, what the blockchain technology and NFTs make possible, that is that you put an idea, a concept, into a smart contract, which is just a piece of software that is on the blockchain, and then it is there forever. And you can kind of claim it, so the authorship is clear. It also has a time stamp. You can see when it was created. And that, for me as an artist, was very interesting. I saw also that it is very closely connected with the value, with money. So as an artist, I felt like it is really enabling me to put a piece of work, a piece of art out into the world and kind of be the owner in the beginning, but then also let other people participate by buying these single NFTs.
And I think there are 360 Kleee tokens. They are all unique, and they're all kind of born or created out of this piece of code that you put on the blockchain. Kind of, maybe to explain this, you have this code that somehow generates the Kleee token as we see them here, the lines that went for a walk and then are kind of burned on a piece of photo paper, so that you at the end you see the full walk. But I think each walk that the dot took, each line is unique.
Yes.
And the uniqueness, how was the uniqueness coming into the project?
Yeah, so basically what we did, we described in the smart contract how this line is drawn. And, but we left it totally open how this line should be drawn. So like the first version we did was like for the laser, but of course this line could also be danced, or it could be drawn, or it could be whatever.
It could have different colors.
Yeah, so we described how, and this is like the analogy to conceptual art. We described the work, but we let it like kind of open how it could be executed, like in the real space. And this is also, I think, for me as an artist that worked a lot in the digital realm, was very interesting that I could kind of put a concept out into the world, but the execution is totally free. Everybody, it's open source. Everybody can see the code, the description of how the line is drawn, and then do his own version. You could also do jewelry of it, or you could whatever. So I really like this idea of, it was like a liberation of the visual, of the physical, and while at the same time claiming the concept as being my own or our own. Yeah.
I mean, tonight we will see Klee's token kind of as in form of projections on the ice rink in front of the Hotel Castel. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about how that relates, or how that these two things work in parallel, or how they add to each other, like the token on the blockchain and the laser projection on the ice? And might there be other ways to show this work?
Yeah, so what we're going to see tonight is we're going to project about 20 or 30 of these 360 tokens, and maybe I can get a little personal here. I've been coming to the Hotel Castel since 20 years, and that was 20 years ago, that was about the time when I started working with lasers, and I always envisioned to do a projection from my hotel room onto the ice. And now, tonight, I can finally do it, which is just great for me. So this is like, for me, this is like a dream come true. After all these years I would spend like every New Year at the hotel, and I would always like have this room with the beautiful view of the ice, and I always imagined how I would do it. And so this is tonight. This is going to be kind of an experiment. We didn't plan much, so we basically will do this projection, and there will be something else at the same time. You can watch it from the terrace, and I think it's going to be I imagine it to be very amazing in visually, but maybe there's going to be some surprises. So I mean, and this is how I work as an artist. I don't like perfection. I like really to dive into something and then see what happens. So, and it's also nice to, I mean, some of you know there has been a lot of other art projects that have happened on this beautiful terrace in front of the Hotel Castel. And so this is, for me, this is like a magic place when it comes to art.
I mean, you dropped these 360 token or offered them to the public in 2019. And I think it was a kind of a interesting story that kind of evolved since around the Kleee project. And especially as this year it became very famous, or last year it became very famous all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Around all that craze that happened around the blockchain, the NFT market. So maybe you can tell us a bit about the beginnings and the story of Kleee up until today.
Yeah. So what, as I said, we thought about building this contract, and this did the whole software and the concept and the visualization and everything, and once it was finished, that was in April 2019. We uploaded the whole thing to the blockchain, and then we did like an opening, like a vernissage at my studio that was in Talville at that time, and there were like 30-40 people coming, and they were offered to buy one of these tokens, and nobody knew what I did and why they should buy it, but then they were friends, and so they bought it anyway. And at that time, they were like, we sold them for maybe like 15 francs, something like that.
I remember you offered one to me by the time, and somehow I didn't get it.
No, the other day I checked my emails, and I even sent a personal invitation at that time. Yeah, so basically we put that out, and 30-40 people bought it, and then I kind of was not so interested anymore, because maybe I was also a little bit frustrated because now nobody understood what I was doing and what the meaning is, and then what 2020 came, and then 2021, and then I felt like this hype was starting around all these NFTs as it is known now. And then around was like late August, within 8 hours or something, like from one moment to the next, like all the rest of the NFTs were sold. So some collectors got wind of it, and then they saw, okay, this is like from 2019. That was a time where there was nothing else. So they thought, okay, there must be value in it. And then there was, of course, a lot of speculation, and it was sold out. The whole contract was sold out within 8 hours or 10 hours. And then, we ended up with some problems, but also some nice surprises. And ever since then, I've learned so much about how all this space works, and we had to build like a Discord, which is like a chat room, so you can talk with all the collectors, and everything is very fast. And once everything was sold, the secondary market started like immediately, and these
so
tokens,
people buy and resell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, this is also one of the nice things for an artist, that you have like a secondary market in your pocket, and which is also very, very interesting, that, you know, as an artist, basically when you do a painting, you sell it, and then it's gone. And you try to sell it as expensively as possible because you will never get any more on any kind of resales. And that's different with NFTs. NFTs, every time they are resold, I get a royalty. And I think that is really, in terms of how you work as an artist, is a game changer. Because this hasn't been the case until now. It also allows you, for example, to put out into the world a collection of, like we did, of 360 tokens, and make like the price very, very low, and to spread it as much as possible. And then you start only making money as an artist when it is resold, which is a very nice way of bringing your art to more people, and have more owners of your art.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of done with my questions. Do you have anything else you would like to add? Otherwise, I would say we open the round for questions.
Well, I have one question that I was thinking about today, which is, we matter, memory, of course. Blockchain is like the endless, eternal memory. But matter, what we're talking about is like the digital, the digital, which is has been in our life for the last 30, 40 years. So I wonder if the digital becomes matter in the future, because now when we think matter, we think carpets, we think, clothing, we think buildings. So will the digital become matter 10 years from now? Will we think about the digital as matter? Why? Until now, we don't really think about it's not matter, it's just digital, it's just a file. But maybe when this money layer comes to it, maybe it's going to change. So maybe you think about it. Will it become matter? Will the digital become matter?
Maybe just one remark. I had a super interesting discussion last year with an artist who did a project with Kevin Abosch. He's a quite well-known conceptual artist and does a lot of projects in the blockchain context. And he always talks about hyperrealism. When he talks about his works, he said they're even more real than physical works to him, because so much energy goes into them in a way that you need a computer. And even though you have a software running on that, and in the end an internet that then displays a token, there's so much hardware involved and energy in creating these things that he feels they are so supercharged with things that are very real and very tangible that to him they are hyper real. I think it might not be the end of the discussion, and there might be many ways you could approach that topic, even in more detail, but I think it's an interesting discussion to open and to start thinking about that. I think especially if you look at the younger generation, I think to them it's quite normal, for example, that something digital can hold even more value, even emotional value, than something physical.
Hyperreal.
Hyperreal.
I mean, this is like this reality question. What is what is real? Is it real when I can touch it? Is it real when it gives me an emotion? I mean, all I can say is that I'm so happy about this possibility of putting my ideas into a certificate to have it stored, and also can kind of sell it, because I must make a living as an artist. So this feels very, very real to me. So this is, and as I said before, it kind of liberates the art. I can put out the art, the visuals, the sound out into the world. I don't have to think about how can I, sell files or sell installations, because now the value is in the certificate, and this is something that I really enjoy.
Thank you so much for this talk. And I had a question that actually connects to what you said about Abosch, that so much energy goes into it. A couple of years ago, I had a long conversation with Vitalik Buterin, who invented Ethereum.
Exactly.
He said that he's working on a more environmentally friendly, Ethereum, but it takes time. I wanted to ask you about that, about the environmental, cost of it and how you deal with that, because there are obviously environmentally more friendly blockchains than others.
Yeah, so when we started this Kleee 02 projects in 2019, we didn't really think about this environmental issue. It only came up during the last let's say 12 to 18 months. It is a problem, especially with Ethereum and Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I'm not very interested in Bitcoin. Ethereum is a very creative environment for working, and I really like to work on it. But it has this very bad footprint. Has been a lot of discussion in the whole Ethereum community to change from like the whole system of how the blockchain is secured from from proof of work to proof of stake, which would reduce the whole footprint by 99%, but it hasn't happened yet. There are new blockchains now that work totally different, like Tezos, like Solana, and where the footprint is not really a problem.
I mean, also by the time when you did the project, honestly, there was no alternative.
There was no
for such
alternative,
a project. No. I mean, the only way to do it was on Ethereum, and it is still the blockchain with the most applications and use cases on it. And it's also important in a certain way when you think about where you would like to realize a project, because everything also needs a certain environment. Mm-hmm. But of course, it is problematic. And nowadays, there are blockchains like Tezos. Tezos also had a booth at the Art Basel in Miami and presented great artworks on the blockchain. Also has a great artist-driven community. It's a bit... sometimes when you look at the price levels, feels a bit underdog compared to what's happening on the Ethereum chain, but still it's very worthwhile looking into that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we just must remember that we're like this whole NFT thing is now maybe, 3 years technically, but 12 to 18 months as a market, and that's nothing. That's really not, that's nothing. And we also should remember or remind ourselves that when we send around artworks around the world, that has also some kind of footprint. So I think it's going to work out some way or another. But at the moment, we really have a problem, because it's not only like this footprint, but it's also like working with the blockchain, with the Ethereum blockchain at the moment is expensive, because there is... It's so-called gas prices. So every time you do an interaction with the blockchain, it is expensive, because it's congested, because there's too many people, because it's too slow. But those are like technical problems, and if like the world knows how to do one thing, is like to overcome technical problems. So I'm concerned about the state we're in now, but I'm very positive that technical solutions can be found. So
So you were asking about if it will ever become matter, and I don't have the answer to it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in all this, because it raises a lot of important questions. We're surrounded constantly, or most of the time and every day, with digital.
Exactly.
Digital. Nobody ever asks this question, what is the digital? Is that ever going to be matter? And all of a sudden, this question comes up, and I think that's why I'm so fascinated by all of it, because when you look at this whole process, it's like it functions like a mirror, and you all of a sudden you see big things that I have never thought about. So that's one of the reasons why I think is good to know about it. Mm-hmm. The question I wanted to ask you is, when you did your first drop with the Kleee 02, did you build in royalty? And maybe could you say something about this royalty? How does that work, the royalty thing?
I mean, now we're talking a lot about money, but then in the end, it's not, NFT is not really an art form in my beliefs, but it's more like an infrastructure that you can use as a collector, as an artist, as a gallery, maybe. There was when we built this contract which holds these NFTs, we sold them. We built a price curve. So like the people that would buy in the beginning pay less than people that would buy in the end. So that was like one element that has to do with money or with value that we put in, and then there is another, as I explained before, once everything was sold, the whole action went to the secondary market, which is, it's called, we don't see it now.
And
it's
maybe
called
we can show
OpenSea.
the first slide again, the one with the little tiles.
So the secondary market is on OpenSea, which is like a auction house. And as an artist, I have the possibility to bring my NFTs onto that platform, and I can decide what kind of royalty I want to have, between like 0 and maybe 10%.
There were even artists in the past who charge 100%, but that's of course an interesting concept, because whoever buys it will never make any money. That's an art piece in itself, a conceptual idea.
So basically, so we decided for, I mean, we didn't know anything at that time. We just said, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, 5%.
Now it's here.
Yeah. So this is like our gallery, like the Kleee 02 gallery on OpenSea. And like you can see like the prices, and then there's a lot of statistics in behind where you can see what kind of action is happening. Like everything is like instantaneous. You know, somebody buys one of the NFTs, I see it the same minute. Like next moment, the royalty is in my wallet. So everything is like crazy fast and very instantaneous. And it took me some time to get used to the whole action, and I mean, it's so much different from what I grew up with. It's so much different from what I experienced for the last 20 years as a digital artist. So it's all very interesting. It's sometimes totally overwhelming. Sometimes it's really scaring for me. But then it's happening, and then we just grabbed it full on, and we just go for it.
Like a rock star.
And what's really funny is that the Kelian, my artist partner, he moved to LA two and a half years ago, and I never met him since then. So we did everything, like the whole crisis management. We had to do some crisis management in between, and like all the developments we did, we all do by Telegram. We never met again since then. So
we might be able to take one last question. Yeah?
Sure.
Anybody? I think over here
I think that's Julian Assange, no?
In your opening comments, you said you had both the digital and a physical aspect to the work, and I missed the physical aspect.
Yeah.
What is that?
The physical aspect of my work. To go back, there is like the NFT contract, the certificate, description of the concept, and then there is like the execution. Now, maybe to me, like a laser projection is like a physical aspect, but maybe it's still like very, it's just light. But then this is like a physical aspect. You can also print it out if you want. You could do like a 3D sculpture of these lines. You could dance it. I mean, this is like, it's just. The contract just says how the line is to be drawn, and then it can be transformed into some physical object. So this is like the physical, and I'm really interested in this hybrid tokens where you have like this digital version, but you could also have another version, because I mean I'm not a big fan of what now is called like the metaverse. It's going to happen somehow or another. Maybe you can remember there was Second Life like 15 years ago, and 3D environments, they have been existing now for like 30, 40 years. But I think as long as we have like bodies and emotions and senses, we will enjoy art on the walls, in space. And so I'm kind of interested how I can combine these two worlds. And this is how I started like 25 years ago, and I'm still at the same point. So I really love the digital space as a tool for working. It also gives me a lot of inspiration, but I also like the physical space, because this is, I mean, in the end, I'm a person, I'm a body. Yeah.
Thank you very much.